adalah sebagai alat transportasi first mile dan last mile dalam proses pemanfaatan angkutan umum massal. Selain itu, NMT juga dapat dimanfaatkan sebagai moda transportasi untuk jarak-jarak yang terjangkau. Tentunya fenomena ini berdampak sangat positif tidak hanya terhadap kesehatan lingkungan, tetapi juga kesehatan pribadi, terutama untuk melindungi kita dari berbagai penyakit non-infeksi, misalnya penyakit jantung, stroke, dan diabetes yang saat ini di Indonesia jumlah penderitanya terus bertambah akibat masyarakat kurang bergerak. Oleh karena itu, implementasinya harus terus ditingkatkan sehingga sepeda tidak sekedar sebagai sarana olahraga dan hobi, tetapi juga sebagai alternatif alat transportasi.
Sebelum berkendara, siapkan standar keselamatan di jalan. Helm, jaket, sepatu, janganlah lupa dikenakan.
Selalu periksa lampu, spion, rem, dan roda kendaraan Anda. Waspada berkendara sangat penting untuk keselamatan kita.
Hati-hati di jalan, kurangi kecepatan, hormati pengguna jalan, utamakan keselamatan berkendara. Taati aturan rambu lalu lintas, hindari bentuk pelanggaran, ciptakan budaya tertib dan aman. Sayangi nyawamu.
Sepanjang pandemi COVID-19 terjadi transformasi budaya atau kultur pengguna transportasi publik atau angkutan umum massal menjadi lebih disiplin, lebih tertib, dan patuh dalam menerapkan protokol kesehatan. Perubahan kultur bertransportasi ini adalah hasil dari partisipasi dan kolaborasi semua pemangku kepentingan, terutama pengguna transportasi publik yang dengan penuh kesadaran berupaya bersama mewujudkan transportasi yang selamat, aman, nyaman, dan sehat. Tren positif lainnya selama pandemi ini adalah fenomena bersepeda di kalangan masyarakat, terutama untuk berolahraga dan menyalurkan hobi. Fenomena ini perlu didorong untuk lebih meningkatkan penggunaan berjalan kaki dan bersepeda sebagai alat transportasi bukan bermotor atau non-motorized transportation (NMT). Pemanfaatan NMT diantaranya adalah sebagai alat transportasi first mile dan last mile dalam proses pemanfaatan angkutan umum massal. Selain itu, NMT juga dapat dimanfaatkan sebagai moda transportasi untuk jarak-jarak yang terjangkau. Tentunya fenomena ini berdampak sangat positif tidak hanya terhadap kesehatan lingkungan, tetapi juga kesehatan pribadi, terutama untuk melindungi kita dari berbagai penyakit non-infeksi, misalnya penyakit jantung, stroke, dan diabetes yang saat ini di Indonesia jumlah penderitanya terus bertambah akibat masyarakat kurang bergerak. Oleh karena itu, implementasinya harus terus ditingkatkan sehingga sepeda tidak sekedar sebagai sarana olahraga dan hobi, tetapi juga sebagai alternatif alat transportasi.
Sebelum berkendara, siapkan standar keselamatan di jalan. Helm, jaket, sepatu, janganlah lupa dikenakan.
Selalu periksa lampu, spion, rem, dan roda kendaraan Anda. Waspada berkendara sangat penting untuk keselamatan kita.
Hati-hati di jalan, kurangi kecepatan, hormati pengguna jalan, utamakan keselamatan berkendaraan. Taati aturan rambu lalu lintas, hindari bentuk pelanggaran, ciptakan budaya tertib dan aman. Sayangi nyawamu.
Sepanjang pandemi COVID-19 terjadi transformasi budaya atau kultur pengguna transportasi publik atau angkutan umum massal menjadi lebih disiplin, lebih tertib dan patuh dalam menerapkan protokol kesehatan. Perubahan kultur bertransportasi ini adalah hasil dari partisipasi dan kolaborasi semua pemangku kepentingan, terutama pengguna transportasi publik yang dengan penuh kesadaran berupaya bersama mewujudkan transportasi yang selamat, aman, nyaman, dan sehat. Tren positif lainnya selama pandemi ini adalah fenomena bersepeda di kalangan masyarakat, terutama untuk berolahraga dan menyalurkan hobi. Fenomena ini perlu didorong untuk lebih meningkatkan penggunaan berjalan kaki dan bersepeda sebagai alat transportasi, bukan bermotor atau non-motorized transportation (NMT). Pemanfaatan NMT diantaranya adalah sebagai alat transportasi first mile dan last mile dalam proses pemanfaatan angkutan umum massal. Selain itu, NMT juga dapat dimanfaatkan sebagai moda transportasi untuk jarak-jarak yang terjangkau. Tentunya fenomena ini berdampak sangat positif tidak hanya terhadap kesehatan lingkungan, tetapi juga kesehatan pribadi, terutama untuk melindungi kita dari berbagai penyakit non-infeksi, misalnya penyakit jantung, stroke, dan diabetes yang saat ini di Indonesia jumlah penderitanya terus bertambah akibat masyarakat kurang bergerak. Oleh karena itu, implementasinya harus terus ditingkatkan sehingga sepeda tidak sekedar sebagai sarana olahraga dan hobi, tetapi juga sebagai alternatif alat transportasi.
Tegakkan standar keselamatan di jalan. Helm, jaket, sepatu, jangan lupa dikenakan.
Selalu periksa lampu, spion, rem, dan roda kendaraan Anda. Waspada berkendara sangat penting untuk keselamatan kita.
Hati-hati di jalan, kurangi kecepatan, hormati pengguna jalan, utamakan keselamatan berkendaraan. Taati aturan rambu lalu lintas, hindari bentuk pelanggaran, ciptakan budaya tertib dan aman, sayangi nyawamu.
Sepanjang pandemi COVID-19 terjadi transformasi budaya atau kultur pengguna transportasi publik atau angkutan umum massal menjadi lebih disiplin, lebih tertib, dan patuh dalam menerapkan protokol kesehatan. Perubahan kultur bertransportasi ini adalah hasil dari partisipasi dan kolaborasi semua pemangku kepentingan, terutama pengguna transportasi publik yang dengan penuh kesadaran berupaya bersama mewujudkan transportasi yang selamat, aman, nyaman, dan sehat. Tren positif lainnya selama pandemi ini adalah fenomena bersepeda di kalangan masyarakat, terutama untuk berolahraga dan menyalurkan hobi. Fenomena ini perlu didorong untuk lebih meningkatkan penggunaan berjalan kaki dan bersepeda sebagai alat transportasi bukan bermotor atau non-motorized transportation (NMT). Pemanfaatan NMT diantaranya adalah sebagai alat transportasi first mile dan last mile dalam proses pemanfaatan angkutan umum massal. Selain itu, NMT juga dapat dimanfaatkan sebagai moda transportasi untuk jarak-jarak yang terjangkau. Tentunya fenomena ini berdampak sangat positif tidak hanya terhadap kesehatan lingkungan, tetapi juga kesehatan pribadi, terutama untuk melindungi kita dari berbagai penyakit non-infeksi, misalnya penyakit jantung, stroke, dan diabetes yang saat ini di Indonesia jumlah penderitanya terus bertambah akibat masyarakat kurang bergerak. Oleh karena itu, implementasinya harus terus ditingkatkan sehingga sepeda tidak sekedar sebagai sarana olahraga dan hobi, tetapi juga sebagai alternatif alat transportasi.
Good morning, Ms. Swiniger, Mr. Robert Ritter, and Mr. Michael David, Ms. Ronald Taylor. We will start the webinar in 2 minutes. Thank you for your coming. Let's start the webinar for today. Good evening, Indonesia, and a very warm welcome to our webinar benchmarking on the National Roadway Safety Strategy by United States Department of Transportation. Before we begin, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Hananto Prakoso, Transportation Attaché at the Embassy of Indonesia in Washington, D.C., and it is my honor to be your moderator for today's webinar. One of the primary reasons of unnatural deaths all over the world is traffic accident. The Global Status Report on Road Safety 2018, launched by WHO, spotlight that every year there are 1.35 million people killed on the world's road, while almost 3,700 people are killed in crashes involving automobiles, buses, motorbike, bicycles, lorries, or pedestrians around the world daily. The lack of appropriate and integrated measures worsen the safety issue in emerging countries, one of which is in Indonesia. The Indonesian Police Traffic Corps recorded that there were 100,028 traffic accidents throughout 2020 in Indonesia. With the high number of accidents and fatalities, it is undoubtedly that Indonesia requires a set of innovative policies to reduce the number. The United States Department of Transportation, or USDOT, has released National Roadway Safety Strategy in 2022. In this regard, experience from the United States is exceedingly valuable for the Indonesian government. This is a good opportunity for us to learn and understand how United States Department of Transportation implement the National Roadway Safety Strategy. This webinar is organized by Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia and attended by Ministry of Transportation officials as well as other related stakeholders in Indonesia. And now we would like to welcome the Director of Traffic Management, Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia, Mr. Sigit Irfansyah. Good evening, Mr. Sigit Irfansyah. Thank you for your coming. And of course, our speaker, I would like to welcome Ms. Emily Swiniger, Mr. Robert Ritter, and Mr. Michael Griffith from United States Department of Transportation. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
We would like to welcome, morning. We would like to express gratitude for all to attend our webinar. We hope everyone in a good health, and I think we should be proud of this webinar because right now this webinar is spanned close to 300 participants from all over Indonesia. I think that in the next few minutes, the participant will be higher. Okay, for the first time, to mark the beginning of our event, we will witness together the opening remark from the Director of Traffic Management, Greater Jakarta Transport Authority, Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sigit Irfansyah. Mr. Sigit Irfansyah, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu. Excellencies, Mr. Robert Ritter, Director of the Office Impairing Driving and Occupant Protection and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, United States Department of Transportation. Mr. Griffith, Director of the Office Safety Technology, Federal Highway Administration, United States Department of Transportation. Ms. Emily Swiniger, Senior Policy Advisor for the Transportation, Health and Safety, United States Department of Transportation. Excellency, Dr. Eli Sinaga, President of Indonesia Road Safety Partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of Ministry of Transportation of Republic of Indonesia, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all of the knowledge sharing session on the topic of National Road Safety Strategy. Thank you for being in this virtual event. I will also express my sincere appreciation to the Transport Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in the US who initiate the world these events. The main agenda on this event is sharing knowledge of the safe system approach in developed by the US Department of Transportation. As in the United States, safety is a fundamental principle of transportation system in Indonesia and has always been a major concern of the government. Since 2011, Indonesia has already had a national general road safety plan. There are pillars as a leading sector. In the first pillar, from the National Development Planning Agency, or Bappenas, is related to the safety management. The second pillar, from the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, is related to the safe road. The third pillar is from the Ministry of Transportation, related to the safe vehicles. The fourth pillar is from the National Police regarding safe driver behavior. And the last one is from the Ministry of Health regarding post-crash or post-accident handling. In addition, there are two other pillars, the Ministry of Research, Technology and Education and Culture, and the Ministry of Communication and Information, collaborating with the local government, plan to jointly achieve the Traffic Safety Index target. Our honorable guests, road traffic injuries and death are a major global public problem. According to the WHO, Global Status Report on Road Safety 2018, 1.35 million people are killed in road accidents globally, and millions of more seriously injured and suffer long-term health consequences. Road accidents are one of the leading causes of death of young people aged 15 to 29 years. Road traffic injuries are currently the 8th leading cause of death worldwide and are projected to become a 7th leading cause by 2030. Moreover, road traffic accidents cause enormous economic loss to individuals, their family, and the entire nations. In Indonesia, PT Jasa Raja is the first guarantor company for traffic accident victim, claimed the fatality of the traffic accident in the first semester of 2022 is getting higher compared to the same period in 2019 or before the COVID-19 pandemic. Based on the data from Indonesian National Police, the number of victim traffic accidents in the period 2010-2020 more than 170,000 people annually on average, while the average number of the fatality around 2,800 people per year. In 2020, the fatality rates more than 20,000 people are the equivalent of 3 people dying per hour. This requires to be the concern all stakeholders, how to synergize effort and strategy to reduce the number of traffic accidents. The government considers the need for mitigation measures to reduce the fatality rate on the roadway accident. Besides, the government always promotes the importance of obeying regulation and practicing to safe driving culture. The Ministry of Transportation also echoes the spirit of safe driving by implementing 4A, alertness, awareness, attitude, and anticipations. Ladies and gentlemen, even though Indonesia already set target and program related to the safety, as well as know the last few weeks we have been shocked by 2 fatal accidents in Cibubur and Bekasi, each of which have claimed more than 10 lives. Even more tragic, the victims in Bekasi accident are mostly children. This indicated that the road safety strategy have not been fully implemented successfully. Indonesia undoubtedly demands to set breakthrough to the reduce the vehicle crash in the fatality rate. In this regard, Indonesia government, here represented by the Ministry of Transportation, would like to learn from the US Department of Transport with the National Road Safety Strategy. We would like to adopt and adapt the best way to significantly reduce serious injury and death on the highway, road, and street, employing comprehensive approach. Ladies and gentlemen, I do really hope this knowledge sharing agenda will add to our insight and understanding of what are the appropriate strategy towards safer people, safer road, safer vehicle, safer speed, and the post-crash care in how to implement the successfully thus we can save many lives. I am fully confident that your active participation and valuable contribution will make a big difference in our effort to improve road safety in Indonesia. Thank you for bringing your energy, knowledge, and expertise. I wish you all of the fruitful discussion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sigit Irfansyah, for the opening remark. Please give virtual applause to Mr. Sigit Irfansyah, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Okay, now it is the time to photo opportunity. To our all panelists, speakers, and participants, please look into your camera so that we can imagery this moment, and please make sure that your camera is turning on. Please make your camera turning on. We will take a picture in the few minutes. Please take a picture, committee, please be ready. Take a picture in 3, 2, 1, and smile. Okay, one more time, I repeat. Please take a picture in 3, 2, 1, cheese. Okay, thank you very much to our speaker and participant. I know that we are looking forward to our next part of our webinar, the presentation from extraordinary speakers from United States Department of Transportation. They will provide us with insight about the National Roadway Safety Strategy. Right after, of course, we will have a Q&A session, question and answer session, before the end of our webinar. To ask question, please put your question to the Q&A box with the particular format. Type your name, space, and question. I repeat, type your name, space, and question. So without further ado, on behalf of the organizing committee, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our webinar, a dedication from the Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia. Okay, our first speaker is working as a senior policy advisor for transportation, health, and safety in the office of the Undersecretary at the United States Department of Transportation. At US DOT, she has promoted safety through the launch of the National Roadway Safety Strategy and the launch of the Safe Street and Roads for All discretionary grant program that allocates $5 billion over 5 years to local communities to create, support, and implement comprehensive safety action plans on our roadways. Additionally, she leads coordination for the US DOT COVID response team and other health-related initiatives for the department. She holds a bachelor degree of art from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a master degree of public health from Tulane University's School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Emily Sweenager. Okay, once again, good morning, Miss Sweenager.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Ms. Sweenager, screen is yours.
And thank you. We have a presentation to share. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, I am here to speak to you all about the National Roadway Safety Strategy, a strategy that was launched very recently at the beginning of this year. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. Next slide, please. First, a little bit about the Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation. It's foundational for our work and critical to our mission to have the safest, most equitable, reliable, and modern transportation system in the world to increase our economic strength, improve climate outcomes, and build global competitiveness for the American people. This is fundamental. Safety is a fundamental building block necessary for our nation to achieve our strategic goals. And it is the North Star of our department. Next slide, please. Thank you. So one of the really remarkable aspects of the National Roadway Safety Strategy is that we adopted 0 as the acceptable number of deaths on our highways, roads, and streets. Together, we must strive for 0 roadway fatalities, and we are committed as a department to taking substantial and comprehensive action to significantly reduce serious and fatal injuries on our nation's roads and to reduce the number of roadway fatalities to 0. Next slide, please. So the National Roadway Safety Strategy is a comprehensive approach to significantly reducing serious injuries and deaths on our nation's highways, roads, and streets. I'm sorry for the formatting of this slide. It's difficult to read, but the fundamental components of this strategy include that department-wide vision and goal of zero as being our goal, zero roadway fatalities. It adopts the safe system approach, which I'll talk about in a moment. It identifies new priority actions and notable changes to existing practices that are going to get us to that goal of zero roadway fatalities. It also leverages new funding and policies through the bipartisan infrastructure law, so through our legislation, to bring the strategy to life. It also advances equity and climate goals, and it calls others to action with a recognition that the Department of Transportation has a part to play, but we also rely on other stakeholders within the transportation system to join us in this effort to reduce fatalities to zero. Next slide, please. One of the fundamental pieces to being able to address this problem is to understand what the problem is. Thank you. What we have seen in the United States was that after decades of improvements and decreasing numbers in crashes and fatalities, we've actually seen in the last decade an uptick. This is important to note because identifying the problem is part of finding the solution. Next slide, please. Now you heard the number 1.3 million, here we have 1.25 million, but it's a lot of people, however you look at it. These are the lives lost, estimated to be lost globally from traffic crashes on an annual basis. In the United States, in the year 2021, there's an estimated 42, almost 43,000 deaths on our roadways caused by crashes. And of those, 7,342 were people walking. Now, I want to point out that we use the word crash instead of accident because the word accident implies that there was no cause. And we do believe that in order to find a solution, we need to agree that there are causes to these crashes. So you'll hear me use the word crash throughout this presentation as an acknowledgement that on our roadways, we do not accept that there are accidents. In fact, we believe that there's always a reason that something's happened. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Next slide, please. So again, we want to look at the problem and understand it. One of the things that we see in the United States when we start to disaggregate the data, who is dying on our streets, we see that there are disparate impacts. So American Indian, Alaska Native people are dying at greater rates than others across the board. We see that Black and African American are dying at greater rates, Hispanic, Latino, and others are dying at greater rates than white or Asian. This is important when we think about what types of strategies we will deploy to reduce these roadway fatalities. Next slide, please. We also see that disproportionate impacts are felt acutely by people outside of vehicles. So fatalities among pedestrians and bicyclists have been increasing even faster than those fatalities for people inside of vehicles. Again, important for understanding the root causes of some of these problems. Next slide, please. Another way that we disaggregate the data is looking at both the ethnicity and race, and then also where was the person? Were they walking? Were they biking? Were they inside of a vehicle? So another layer of understanding and seeing a clear picture of what's happening on our roadways. Next slide, please. And finally, just another example of how you can break down the data to see where your problems are. This is looking at what types of roads these crashes are happening on and comparing that with how much traffic is on those roads. So you get a good sense of where some of your problem areas are. Next slide. We used all of this data in order to inform the development of the National Roadway Safety Strategy. Next slide. and using also some of the basics and fundamentals of roadway safety, including Vision Zero, towards zero deaths, which informed our adoption of the goal of zero roadway fatalities. We also are looking at programs like Complete Streets, we'll talk about a bit more, and proven safety strategies, countermeasures that work, and looking at innovative practices and technologies where it might apply. So all of these basics of roadway safety are being incorporated into how we're thinking about this strategy. Next slide, please. Really fundamental to the strategy and what was outlined in the introduction to our presentation is the safe system approach. This is looking at the entire roadway system, safer people, looking at ways to make people safer, looking at ways to make the roadway safer, looking at ways to deploy and promote and create places where the speeds are safer, and looking at where technology might make vehicles safer. And then of course, looking at post-crash care. This is an important way to look at the roadway problem and to understand the system, because it provides us with tools to address what we're seeing. First, in the safe system approach is the assumption, the acceptance that death and serious injury is no longer acceptable. We also accept that as humans, we are fallible, we will make mistakes. We need to build a system that accounts for those mistakes. We also see that humans are vulnerable. This means that humans can be injured, can be killed, and that we need to set up a system that protects them from that. We also acknowledge that responsibility is shared, and we look at safety as being something that's proactive. So we don't want to identify, the problem after it's happened. We want to get ahead of that problem and identify it before it happens. And then very fundamental to the system is that redundancy is crucial. If we know humans are going to make mistakes, inevitably, we all make mistakes sometimes. And if we know that we are vulnerable, then it is our shared responsibility to have layers of protection in place. Next slide, please. And you can see that here in this image where there are multiple layers of protection. So again, looking at the system through this lens of safer people, safer roads, safer vehicles, safer speeds, post-crash care. And when we layer approaches to making those things safer, then we have these redundancies that can protect people more accurately, more proactively from potential crashes resulting in serious injury or death. So we want to talk to you a little bit more about what each of these mean. Next slide, please. I will hand it to my colleague now to tell us about safer people.
Good morning, everyone. This is Robert Ritter. I'm the Director of the Office of Impaired Driving and Occupant Protection at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. NHTSA is one of the several modal agencies within the Department of Transportation, all working with Emily and her team and the Secretary to implement our National Roadway Safety Strategy. I'm excited to be here this morning to talk to you a little bit about one of those elements of the safe system approach, safer people. And that element is about encouraging safe, responsible behavior by the people who use our roads, as well as creating the conditions within the system that prioritize their ability to reach their destination unharmed. Next slide, please. There are many different activities, actions, and countermeasures that we could talk about in order to encourage and allow and support safer people. Emily mentioned a number of different publications in her presentation, and I want to call your attention to this one, Countermeasures That Work. This Highway Safety Countermeasure Guide provides proven and researched countermeasures that allow for and support safer people on our roadways. You can see at the bottom of the slide a link to where you can find this on the web. NHTSA publishes and updates this document every 2 years or so, and we've recently published a series of shorter highlighting versions for different topics within the countermeasures that work. So you can identify proven safety countermeasures for seatbelts, for distracted driving, for child passenger safety, and the other topics within countermeasures that work. Next slide. One of the other really important elements of a safe system is communicating and educating with the people who are using the system, increasing their awareness as to how to use the system safely and how to interact and work with each other. NHTSA has a variety of public service campaigns, advertisements, and marketing materials, all available at trafficsafetymarketing.gov, that we share with our states throughout the United States to help educate and increase awareness on safe use of the roadway system. Next slide. The National Roadway Safety Strategy that we're talking about today has a number of priorities and actions identified within the strategy. If we could move to the next slide, please. Just that slide will highlight a few of the actions that the department will undertake in order to support safer people. So I'm not sure if I'm seeing the slides properly, but I did not see the slides move to slide 18 or 19. Wait just a moment and see if the slides advance. Thank you. That's the one I was looking for. So you can see on this slide a number of different activities and actions that the department's going to be taking to support the safer people element of the safe system approach, including updating safety messaging, as I talked about, enhancing equity in traffic law enforcement. Emily talked about the new funding that our Congress has made available to support many of these safety activities and to support the implementation of the National Roadway Safety Strategy. We're also improving information exchange between and among the states so that we can improve safer drivers in both the passenger realm as well as with our commercial motor vehicle drivers. Let's go to the next slide, and I will turn it over to my colleague from the Federal Highway Administration, Mike Griffith.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you, everyone, for your warm welcome today. Good morning to everyone here in the U.S. and good evening to everyone in Indonesia. So another important part, and so next slide, another important part of the National Road Safety Strategy are safer roads. And that's where the Federal Highway Administration comes to national leadership. We are very much focused on looking at roadway designs that are going to mitigate human mistakes, as Emily and Rob referred to, and then account for injury tolerances. There are different designs that can reduce speeds so that if someone does get into a crash, the chances of a severe outcome are lessened. And this is a perfect example in this photograph of a roundabout, which reduces the number of conflict points, but also reduces the chance for a severe crash to occur. Next slide, please. So just as Rob was showing you some of the actions that are being led by NHTSA for safer people, these are just a few examples of what we're doing to provide national leadership from the Federal Highway Administration for safer roads. And I'll just, in the interest of time, just mention one of them, and that's our Highway Safety Improvement Program. We provide funding to the states each year to allow them to address their safety problems and looking at creating safer roads, but also safer speeds, which I will highlight later in the presentation. And the states are all responsible for setting performance targets. And the Highway Safety Improvement Program and the other programs in the department help these states achieve their safety performance targets. And unfortunately, in the US, as noted earlier in the presentation, we are unfortunately going in the wrong direction. And the number of fatalities has gone up over the past several years. And so we have a lot to do to advance these actions to reverse this very unfortunate situation that we're facing in the US right now. Next slide, please. So at FHWA, we identify certain proven safety countermeasures that are at a low level of deployment. And they're also shown to be effective through sound research. And then what we do is we put a spotlight on them We are asking for state and local agencies and tribal agencies to consider them, as long as also with other safety countermeasures that they have in their toolbox. But these are ones we put a spotlight on because they're underutilized, and we at least want to give the state and local agencies information so they can consider them as part of their safety programs. Next slide, please. So just quickly run through a couple examples of some of these proven safety countermeasures. This shows example of crosswalk visibility enhancements. We know that you can provide improved lighting or use high visibility crosswalks and advanced yield or stop markings and signs. Each of these elements or enhancements does provide safety benefits as noted here. Another example is simply just increasing the width of your edge line from 4 feet to 6 inches. So our edge lines that you see in this picture are white, and just by increasing that edge line by 2 inches gives more visibility, more delineation to where the shoulder is or the edge of the road, and you can see what the benefits are from a very simple low-cost countermeasure. Next slide, motorcycle safety. We know that Indonesia has a very strong interest in motorcycle safety. There is a lot of work that we've done recently from the roadway and traffic control side to identify improvements that agencies can make. And I just got a note that my connection is unstable. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can still hear you.
Thank you. I got concerned because I got a message that said my connection was unstable and I was concerned I was losing you. So this just shows you some of the guides that we've developed over the past couple of years that focus on barrier design, roadway geometry, pavement design, intelligent transportation systems, and some noteworthy practices from across the US focused on infrastructure and engineering to help improve motorcycle safety.
Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're one slide behind you. So if we can advance to the motorcycle slide, please.
Thank you. Okay. So this just shows you some of the guides that I just noted, and we have all these on our website, so please let us know if you're interested in getting the direct links to each one of them. And finally, complete streets. Emily mentioned what we're doing just very briefly with complete streets. And the way we look at complete streets is complete streets feel safe and are safe for all road users. We are really trying hard in the United States to advance a complete streets design model. We know that we have to accommodate the safety of pedestrians, motorcyclists, bicyclists, scooter riders, skateboard riders. I mean, basically there's so many different ways that people can get around today, and we have to design the streets that accommodate everyone in a safe manner. And that's really what we're trying to do, is advance a number of different resources that help agencies build out these complete streets. And with that, I will turn this back over to Rob Ritter.
Thank you, Mike. Excuse me. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. If we could advance the slides to the safer vehicle slide, I can start there on the next element of the safe system approach. So I think we need to move forward 2 slides.
Please, next 2 slides.
Move forward to another slide. And 1 more slide. Thank you. Perfect. So safer vehicles is the next element of the safe system approach. And the National Roadway Safety Strategy goal for safer vehicles is to expand the availability of vehicle systems and features that help prevent crashes and minimize the impact of crashes on both vehicle occupants and non-vehicle occupants. And at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, if you could turn to the next slide, we oversee and regulate the safety of vehicles, of passenger vehicles in the United States through the federal motor vehicle safety standards. Again, if you could move forward to the next slide. Our FMVSS, Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, establishes the requirements for vehicle safety and performance on our roadways and establish a baseline for safety that vehicle manufacturers can use around the world. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you. Safer vehicles leverage motor vehicle technology improvements to advance safety, including updating consumer information-focused programs and promoting the use of those advanced technologies, such as advanced driver assistance technologies that you see here on this slide. NHTSA oversees the New Car Assessment Program, the NCAP program. United States was the first country to establish a new car assessment program and establish a rating system for new vehicles. And we continue to review, test, and rate new vehicles and provide that information to our consumers so that they can understand the safety performance and overall vehicle safety score for any new vehicle that they may wish to purchase. And as part of the National Roadway Safety Strategy, next slide, we are updating that new car assessment program and providing a roadmap for continual update so that we can continue to encourage manufacturers to include safety improvements on their new vehicles and to rate those vehicles to provide information to consumers on the safety features that are available in the marketplace. We're also developing rules for federal motor vehicle safety standards on automated emergency braking and pedestrian automated emergency braking, on advanced impaired driving prevention technology, and a variety of other new technologies that hold promise to address some of those gaps that we saw in the safe system approach. Emily talked about humans making mistakes. We all do that all the time. Technology has the opportunity to prevent some of those mistakes or to mitigate what might be the impact of those mistakes when they do occur. And so at the Department of Transportation, we're very interested in understanding and then implementing technology in order to address and protect safety on our roadways. And I will turn it back to Mike for safer speeds on the next slide.
Great, thank you, Rob. So yes, with safer speeds, this is really not just Federal Highway Administration that's involved with this effort. We work very closely with National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and also the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And this is a huge problem in the United States. Since the pandemic, we have unfortunately seen increases in speed, reckless driving, and there's a lot of reasons for that, which we don't have time to cover right now. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is promote safer speeds through a number of ways, through context-sensitive roadway environments, through appropriate speed limits, through enforcement, including the use of speed safety cameras, outreach campaigns, and other tools. Next slide, please. So with respect to speed limit setting, this is fundamental to achieving safer speed. You have to first get the posted speed limit right. And there are a lot of different factors that have to be considered. We know that internationally right now, there is a movement to move to 20-mile-per-hour speed zones, or in a lot of cases, that would be 30 kilometers, which is just below 20 miles per hour in urban core areas. And so internationally, we're really starting to see, at least in urban core areas, a movement to go to a lower speed limit to account for the safety of all road users. Next slide, please. So we do have a number of departmental actions we are advancing for safer speeds. And just quickly, I'll mention the fact that we are in the process at the Federal Highway Administration of doing a complete update of our manual of uniform traffic control devices. There is a section within that manual that pertains to speed limit setting. And we are working on making a number of changes to that right now to really highlight the need to consider a number of different factors to get the right speed limit posted on signs for safety of all road users. And then just quickly, we're doing a lot of work right now on speed safety cameras. We have a guide that we're getting close to completing. And there's a lot of interest across the US right now to advance the use of speed safety cameras and do it in a way that is equitable. And with that, I will turn it back to Rob.
Thank you, Mike. We'll move to the next slide to talk about the remaining element of the safe system approach, post-crash care. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So post-crash care is about enhancing the survivability of crashes through expedient access to emergency medical care and creating a safe working environment for our vital first responders, as well as preventing secondary crashes that happen often in the backup that occurs after a primary crash. Our Office of Emergency Medical Services advances a national vision for EMS through projects and research and fosters collaboration among federal agencies involved in EMS planning and measures the health of the nation's EMS system. Next slide, please. We support a number of activities to advanced post-crash care. In the United States, approximately 40% of all traffic crash victims are alive at the time that the emergency responders arrive at the scene of the crash. Out of our fatalities, 40% of those fatalities are alive at the time of the emergency medical services arrive, but then subsequently succumb to their injuries. And so if we can improve our post-crash care, if we can improve our response time, we can hopefully save lives as well as prevent other crashes associated with the initial crash. Our single national emergency number is 911. And we have a number of websites, as you can see on this slide, that provide tremendous information about post-crash care and where to find support and countermeasures that can be implemented. We have the National EMS Information System, a real-time database of standardized data and documenting practices that facilitate improvements in EMS. So through NEMSIS, through the National EMS Information System, we can get real-time information about crashes that are occurring throughout the United States, understand the practices that are happening at those crashes, identify best practices and new countermeasures. We're also working to standardize EMS education through for our first responders, as well as pre-hospital clinical evidence-based guidelines to support improved practices and improved care on scene. We also have established some EMS performance measures. And as we work with our partners throughout the Department of Transportation, we're doing additional training to help first responders to protect themselves, each other, and all road users at the scenes of the crash. Next slide, please. Some of the departmental actions in the National Roadway Safety Strategy are to improve that on-scene safety and traffic incident management, to expand the use of the EMS data, particularly through NEMSIS, and promote the effective delivery of EMS and shorten those response times to help save lives of those who survived the crash, but ultimately at this point are succumbing to their injuries. We want to be able to save more of those lives. You've seen through this presentation that this is a cooperative agreement, an effort throughout the department. Mike Griffith and I have shared the description of the 5 elements of the safe system approach. We're representing ourselves, our agencies, and many of our partners and colleagues throughout the department. And I will turn it back over now to Emily to talk about the overall efforts from the Secretary and the Department of Transportation. Next slide, Emily.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you, Mike. I wanted to share with you all first, you've seen a comprehensive understanding description of the ways that we are incorporating the safe system approach throughout the department and building our work around that structure. One of the efforts that we have also launched right after launching the National Roadway Safety Strategy is the Safe Streets and Roads for All grants. This is a really exciting program that supports our strategy and provides funding for local entities to be able to deploy this strategy. It supports these initiatives to prevent the serious injuries and deaths on our roadways, and that we are promoting, that we are supporting, that we are advancing with the National Roadway Safety Strategy. Next slide, please. One of the fundamental pieces of this strategy and the way that we will be able to achieve those goals is around planning. So the Safe Streets and Roads for All program offers support to communities to make those plans. Fundamental components you see here for a comprehensive safety action plan includes commitment from leadership. It includes building out a planning structure. It includes looking at those process inputs. So what are your goals? What is the analysis? Again, we started with that breakdown of the data to understand where are our problems, and looking at how we're going to engage and collaborate with different pieces and different people within the transportation system, and looking at equity considerations. This is a really important part of thinking about the approach, is when we look at which communities are carrying the highest burden of the roadway safety problem. We want to be considering that as we are in the planning process, and then looking at what the outcomes may be. For example, if it's a policy, if it's a process change, if we're going to deploy some of the countermeasures and strategies that were described previously as part of the safe system approach, and looking at how we're going to prioritize which projects and strategies we will deploy first, and then how are we going to measure our success. So we are supporting, through the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program, this planning process. Next slide, please. And also looking at other supplemental planning activities. Again, supporting the better understanding of where the roadway problem lies. If we're going to invest capital in projects, whether it's small or large, we want to make sure that we are using it in a way that will be efficient and effective. So we have funding within this program to think about these supplemental planning activities, whether they're feasibility studies, whether it's a targeted equity assessment, looking at speed management plans or lighting management plans that we know are going to be effective measures for preventing those roadway fatalities and serious injuries. Next slide, please. And then we can look towards implementation. When there is an action plan in place, when we have a deeper understanding of where our problems are, then we can look at supporting and funding implementation. In some cases, it may be as simple as restriping the roadway. In other cases, it may involve repaving and some larger capital investments. But all of that will be clearly identified in an action plan. Next slide, please. And again, implementation should be thinking about all the aspects of the roadway safety issues. So we're looking at how we can change our roads, how we can educate our people, how we can create all of those different redundancies through the safe system approach to make our roadways safer, always with a lens towards thinking about who's being impacted most. Next slide, please. And that's part of the approach. When we make these changes to our roadway, when we make these plans, when we work together to make this roadway safer for all users, including people not only in vehicles or on motorcycles, people walking, people biking, people rolling. We think about these questions around equity, who is carrying the largest burden in our community. And we also think about the future, looking forward, and climate, and how we can be building transportation systems that are going to carry us into this century. Next slide, please. Finally, there's the recognition, as I mentioned when I outlined the larger sort of understanding of what encompasses the National Roadway Safety Strategy. This call to action is a critical component, which is recognizing that the United States Department of Transportation has a fundamental and critical role to play in addressing this problem, but we cannot do it alone. And so looking at not only the transportation system, the traditional partners, but looking at all of our partners, whether it's the public and whether it's, industry, nonprofits, if it's research in universities, regulatory bodies, and others to join us in addressing the roadway crisis. And so we encourage you all to think about who you can partner with within your transportation system to make these changes, to adopt a safe system approach, and to move towards a system where no roadway fatalities are acceptable. Next slide, please. For more information about the National Roadway Safety Strategy, we encourage you to visit our website at www.transportation.gov/NRSS. You can find a lot of information about the fundamentals of the National Roadway Safety Strategy, as well as resources that will inform you on some of these specific components and elements of the roadway safety strategy. And with that, on behalf of the US DOT and with my colleagues, we would like to thank you for this opportunity to share with you on our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and please give a virtual applause to our extraordinary speakers from US DOT. Thank you for your excellent presentations. From all of our speakers' presentation, we can take a note that the National Roadway Safety Strategy is not just a document, it is a guidance to improve road safety performance, reduce fatalities, and the most important thing is a full of concrete action plan by every stakeholders in United States. I think that this is a good thing, a good lesson learned for Indonesian government to bring our roadways becoming safer and equitable. After listening to speakers' presentation, now it is the time for panel discussion. We have one Indonesian expert as panelist today. She will give us even more insight from an expert point of view regarding the National Roadway Safety Strategy. Before we proceed, I want to say hello to our participants, whether in Zoom meeting and watching in YouTube. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will stay until the end of our webinar. Just for your information, we have 550 participants so far. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Eli Sinaga. She is now the president of Indonesian Road Safety Partnerships. She had a long career in Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia and had several important positions. She was the former of the Director General or Administrator of Greater Jakarta Transportation Authority. Please, Dr. Eli Sinaga, screen is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our Transportation Attaché, Pak Hananto. Good evening, Pak Sigit, the Greater Jakarta Transport Authority. And good morning to all our speakers, Emily, Michael, and Robert. I just would like to inform you that around 200 of our participants here are our young warriors in road safety and some university students. So they are really eager to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for such fruitful presentations. I always amazed to listen to the concepts compiled by your country of USA. So in Indonesia, we did also just issue the grand design of road safety by Presidential Regulations #1 this year, and some actions have to be planned by the responsibility institutions. There are some lessons learned from your interested safe system approach. But due to the time constraint, I will just highlight some of it. Firstly, regarding the 5 pillars and coordinations. So in your national roadway safety strategies, as ours, you have 5 pillars or 5 core objectives. In Indonesia, we do also have 5 pillars. They are safe system. And then the rest, it is the same to you: safer roads, safer vehicles, safer people, and post-crash care. So in your document of National Road Safety Strategies, it is really convinced for having safer speeds instead of safer systems such as ours. Yes, we know this really urgent, because speeding is a significant contributor to death on our roadway. You mentioned that by 23 miles per hour, it will cause 10% risk of death, and less than double, 42 miles per hour, it will risk around 50%. So, but in your document, you even didn't mention about system. Yeah. So what should be the coordinations? According to the document, to apply the system, it is a collaborative between the Office of the Secretary of Transportations and operating administrations, whose roles and responsibilities include roadway safety, such as Federal Highway Administration, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Federal Railroad Administrations, Federal Transit Administration, National Highway Traffic Safety Administrations, and Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administrations. So if we compare to our ministry structures here in Indonesia, it is only involved 2 ministries, Public Works and Ministry of Transport. But in Indonesia, we have at least 7 ministries involved, and they are all leaders, yeah, for this road safety strategy. So that is why one of our problem is how to implement an harmony orchestra. Yeah. It mentioned in our government regulations that there should be a platform among institutions for a purpose of coordination. But until now, it is not established yet. So its institutions, they have their own program, which sometimes it is not in line with other programs. I think we should learn more from you, how the coordination done in USA, and who is being the dirigent or the coordinator. That's the first one. The second one, it is regarding safer roads. Yeah, it mentioned that humans make mistakes. And as good stewards of the transportation system, you should have in place the safeguard to prevent those mistakes from being fatal. So I would say it in bahasa, jadi disampaikan di dalam dokumen mereka bahwa manusia normal buat kesalahan, tapi sebagai pengelola sistem transportasi yang baik, kita harus memiliki cara atau kemampuan untuk mencegah kesalahan yang akan berakibat fatal. Yeah, so in Indonesia, almost 90% of our accident here claim due to human factor. But is that correct? I heard from our National Committee on Transport Safety, ya, dari KNKT, ya, that more than 70% of our road are substandard. So I really excited with your program on complete street policies, which prioritize safety, comfort, connectivity to destinations for all users. And it starts with people. It is not from transportation's mode. I think we should learn more about this. Thank you, website provided by you, so we can learn a lot, and probably we could have other discussion later on. And the next one, regarding safer vehicles. From 1960 to 2012, in USA, over 600,000 lives have been saved by vehicle safety technology, including seat belts, airbags, child safety seats, electronic stability control, and others. In Indonesia, seat belt compulsory still only at front seat. So we should thinking, how about the rear seat? Without seat belt, I think it is really dangerous. We also do not have child safety seat regulations. This is also very important. The next one regarding the vehicles, it is to ensure the safe operations of commercial trucks and motor carriers. It mentioned in your documents. So the department continues to identify high-risk companies and operators of commercial motor vehicles by using data-driven and performance-based approach. So now we are facing a big problem here regarding the commercial vehicle, which we call it, they are doing ODOL, O-D-O-L, over dimensions and overloading. So I think we should learn from you that they identify the high-risk companies and operators. This is one of the actions that we should do to know who violating the regulations. The other things regarding vehicles, it is interesting actions to update consumer information on vehicle safety performance through NCAP, new car assessment program. So in US NCAP roadmap, will show how a set of vehicle improvement may be advanced over the next 10 years. So in Indonesia now, we still do not know when NCAP should be enforced. We're still thinking about this. The next one, it is regarding post-crash care. Caring for people injured in a crash to prevent the injuries from becoming fatal, it is just critical. The timing of the arrival of ambulance and emergency responders is a major factor whether an injured person survived a crash. So that's why access to emergency and trauma care, safe and quick incident clearance, it is critical. So in your program, you develop a so-called emergency medical services system, EMS systems, and also including your 911. So it mentioned that by this system, EMS, it is already increased survival up to 25%. It is really great. In Indonesia highway, we do have a lot of toll road. We have also standard for this emergency medical services that we have to serve maximum 30 minutes emergency response. But for the implementations, it is not easy. Lastly, regarding the transportation's performance management dashboard, one of the interesting actions to elevate the transportation performance management dashboard to stakeholders yeah, to the state executive, Congress, the media, and the public. Yeah, they got the access to the dashboard, yeah, to spur and reward roadway safety gains and share informations. Yeah, so people they will know, yeah, what is the situations. Jadi salah satu hal yang menarik yaitu mereka di sini memberikan akses dashboard bagaimana manajemen kinerja transportasi kepada pemangku kepentingan bahkan kepada masyarakat. Ya, jangan sampai kita bahkan dashboard angkutan online saja kita belum punya. So, by this dashboard, all stakeholders may aware what should do and not to do. Actually, I have another two. Yeah, I make it quick. The first one regarding data and funding. Yeah, I don't know how data management done in your country. Yeah, but in Indonesia, yeah, we have some people from the police here. Yeah, accident data in Indonesia keep only by the police. Yeah, so I think we should also learn how to disseminate the data. So everybody like universities, they can also do the research, yeah, by using not only aggregate data. Yeah, we cannot do anything with aggregate data. We should know, yeah, what is the cause of the accidents and etc. Yeah, so data management, yeah, we really would like to learn from you later on. And lastly, it is the funding. Yeah, you mentioned that the local government, they will receive funding to deploy the safety strategy. Yeah, so central government should be very strong, yeah, providing data. Okay, so those are my comments. I think we need some more discussions, sharing experience and knowledge in developing our road safety conditions in Indonesia. Hopefully, we still have any other chance to do that. Thank you so much once again for your kindness discussion and share. Thank you, Pak Ananto.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eli Sinaga. Please give virtual applause to Dr. Eli Adriana Sinaga for the useful insight. Thank you once again, Dr. Eli Sinaga. We have a lot of questions from participants. Unfortunately, due to the time constraints, we apologize for questions that are not read and answered by our expert. We will send the answer through your email. For our USDOT speakers, Ms. Swiniger, Mr. Ritter, and Mr. Griffith, is there any statement before we close the webinar, the meeting? Okay, we still have a few minutes left in this meeting. I would like to give the time to our colleague, Ms. Ronald Taylor-Host from USDOT, to deliver her presentation on DOT Momentum Initiative. Ms. Taylor-Host, screen is yours.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. To piggyback on the discussions my colleagues shared with you, as you can tell, road safety, safety as a whole is a priority for the department. And so what I wanted to do is just take a few minutes to share an initiative that the department is working on that could potentially help in best sharing of best practices. In June of this year, Secretary Buttigieg launched the Momentum Initiative, which is an initiative to build for capacity building and best practices, how we engage with our global partners on the planning and the delivery of high quality, safe, climate-friendly, and effective transportation infrastructure. Momentum harnesses the department's experts and our broad array of research and publications and shares with our global audience of transportation officials and others seeking to promote great transportation systems in their countries. Our experts are working to develop an array of digital resources and toolkits on topics such as infrastructure planning and development, safety, whether it's highway, road, railway, so on and so forth, even airport safety. Putting it simply, momentum is a capacity building resource by transportation experts for transportation experts to benefit the global community. I invite you to learn more about this momentum initiative by visiting transportation.gov/momentum. You may also send an email to momentum@dot.gov. And that's the conclusion of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ronald Taylor-Host. I think that Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia and other stakeholders in Indonesia has opportunity to learn many things from US DOT without difficulties right now. Just open the toolkit. You will see many research resources, policy paper, and other important document from US Department of Transportation. There is no more barrier to learn directly from US Department of Transportation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our webinar, benchmarking on the National Roadway Safety Strategy by United States Department of Transportation. Ms. Swiniger, Mr. Griffith, Mr. Ritter, thank you very much for your kind assistance. We really appreciate your knowledge sharing on the National Roadway Safety Strategy. We hope that you are still available to assist MOT of Indonesia, Ministry of Transportation of Indonesia in the future, notably for enhancing transportation sector in Indonesia. So on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express gratitude to our speakers for today and also all of our participants. Thank you, see you later, stay safe, stay healthy, and God bless us all. Let's give applause to all of us. Thank you very much, and now you may leave the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Thank you so much. See you later.
Bye, Hananto.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Dr. Ellie. Bye, Ronald. Thank you.